Hello and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty. On this show, I interview the world's top health experts so that you can know with certainty what it takes to give your family a life of epic health and wellness.
As parents, we don't want to see our kids struggle. I knew that he had the potential, and I knew that something needed to be done.
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it.
Sure that, we're here. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Scott Haggerty with Elite Family Chiropractic. And so I'm super excited today because I get the privilege of interviewing one of my favorite elite moms. So today what we're going to do is she's going to talk about her experiences with her son. We're just going to dig in and talk about some of the things that they were experiencing and some of the changes that they've seen, because the goal of doing any type of an interview like this is it benefits you to hear from someone who's been where you are maybe right now, and probably are looking for help and hope and things that you can do to help your child. So Mandy, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate that. So first, I just want to thank you so much for being here with us, because I know this is this has been a long journey for your family, and so I thank you for taking the time to share with us today. So first, just tell us about yourself and your family.
Okay, my name's Mandy. I'm the mom of two boys, Jake and Noah, my husband Todd, and we live here in Royalton, just a normal family.
So when you started looking for help, what were the challenges that your son was dealing with?
My son was dealing with, he would have frequent meltdowns, severe ones that would interfere with his day at school, where they'd have to take him out of the classroom. He would tend to get very frustrated, and when he was frustrated, he would cry, he would kind of shout out. He wasn't very aggressive once in a great while, but it was enough that was interfering with his day. We would notice it more and more, if things to him weren't fair, if he had difficulty with anything. Playing games was always a trigger. He also dealt with chronic constipation. He would complain of stomach pains, and we tried Miralax all the time and it didn't seem like it was resolving, and I kind of felt that could be impacting his behavior as well.
How long was he dealing with these challenges?
The meltdowns, it was hard to say. We noticed it once he was in preschool, but as an infant, he would be very sensitive to loud noises, or if things were unexpected, he would cry. If people laughed very loud, he would cry. So I kind of, the meltdown part, once he was in toddler, but then we didn't know if that was just, part of being a toddler. Constipation's kind of been his whole life, but he was a big milk drinker for a while, so I would, try to change his diet up, give more water, that kind of thing.
Okay. So it sounds like you were dealing with these struggles for quite a long time prior to seeking help.
Right.
So now when he would have the meltdowns at school, would it end there or would it carry over? It
would carry over. He would come home and he would be upset. Like, I would know as soon as he got off the bus. I could tell if he had a bad day. So it would kind of ruin his whole day. Like, he wouldn't, he couldn't recover for it. Like, he didn't know how to cope and calm himself down.
So what was the impact on the family because of this?
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it. It was hard going places, or trying to help him when we were out. If he played a sport and would get mad while he was there. People look at you, and that causes a stress on you. You get frustrated, which doesn't help the child to calm down. But so, I felt like we were always kind of walking on eggshells, not knowing what would trigger him or how bad it would be.
It sounds very stressful. So what had you tried to help prior to us meeting?
We took him to a counselor, which did help. He learned some strategies to help calm himself down. We talked to the school, and they instituted a chart system for him, which helped as well. But it just seemed like there was still that one hindrance that we couldn't get over. He would do better, but it wasn't quite where we wanted it to be for his age. And so the school formulated a plan for him. But I just always felt that there was more we could do for him to help him.
Yeah. So what made you decide that you wanted to seek out something additional?
Well, I had talked to you at North Royalton Home Days, and it was always in the back of my head. Like, I kept the flyer, it was always there, and it was just one of those things that I was like, you know what, if I don't try this, I'm going to regret it, because I know, what he said makes sense to me, but it was just taking that step in doing it.
Yeah, and it's funny because, we all, as moms and dads, we always are wanting to do everything that we can, and sometimes there's just that thing that sticks.
Right.
That for some reason or another, you don't know what the time was or why it happened when it did, but it was a meeting obviously that was meant to be.
Right.
So then when did you start the process?
I believe it was the day he had a really rough day at school. I had to go in to pick him up because he just had a bad day, and they just felt that it would be best if I went. And so I just started looking into it then, and I believe I called within that week and was like, can I talk? I had saw the information and about, coming in for a consultation, and I figured I might as well try. I can always see what it's all about.
Absolutely. So as we always do, part of the consultation process is we talk, right? Learn about history, learn about what's happened, and then we'd like to talk about, where you've been and what you've tried, kind of like what we're doing here. So once we went through that part, then we talked about the care plan, and you decided that you were going to start your son on the care plan.
Right.
So when did you start noticing that there were some changes?
I started noticing some early, and then he did still have bad days, but I felt that he was able to overcome things quicker. But I'd have to say, I was really nervous for him to go into third grade because it's, a new grade, a new year, so each year you're supposed to be a little more mature, and I didn't know if his emotional maturity was yet up to where he needed to be. But the first week, every day I would walk on eggshells and be like, okay, I hope he had a good day. I hope he had a good day. And he came home every day with a good day. He was happy, no meltdowns within that first week. And then, I was like, I could start to kind of take a deep breath and really relax because he's doing well. So I would say that's when it really started. I had noticed small improvements before, but that's when it really kicked in that, he's doing great. I talked to a school counselor, and she was like, he's, all new Noah. Like, he's calm, he's still in his self. He's still a silly, because for the most part he is. He's a silly kid. He likes to laugh. He's very caring, but, when he gets that meltdown phase, he just couldn't calm himself, and and it's hard to see because how he is as a child, and that that's just one part of him that he can't or he couldn't at the time control.
So now we're in January, about halfway through the year, and so how has this school year been?
Much better, much better. I mean, he's had, a few moments, but we all do. I don't expect him to be perfect. We all have our times where we get upset, but definitely less frequent. He gets over things very quick. He's more inclined now if he makes a mistake or loses in a game, he's more inclined to laugh at it, kind of shrug it off, whereas before, that would automatically set him off.
Oh, that's great.
So it's much better. His stomach issues have gotten a lot better. He's more self-aware of his body, of his emotions. So it's been very, very helpful. Very thankful.
That's wonderful. And because what a lot of people don't realize is issues like what you were talking about when he was young. Those can be underlying sensory issues. And so in many kids, when there's challenges that are comorbidities like gut issues, along with the emotional dysregulation issues, there's this underlying autonomic imbalance where the brain isn't processing sensory information. There's evidence, like you saw, at very young ages in some kids, and oftentimes there's not an awareness of, well, what is it really? And if people aren't properly trained to understand what that is, and oftentimes they don't know how to maybe point you in the right direction for the help that you need.
Correct.
So well, that's tremendous that he's made such great strides. So now, what is life like for the family?
much more relaxing. We always comment, we still, are cautious. We still walk on eggshells when we think he's going to have a meltdown, but then we're like, oh, last year he wouldn't have done that great. He would have gotten mad, and now we're like, and he sees it too, and he knows that he's able to, laugh at things more, and, I'll ask him, how was your day at school? He's like, good, of course, Mom, it's always good, so things like
awesome.
that where, if he has a bad day, which again, what used to be a bad day is we don't see that now. Like a bad day for him is a small little, I got a little frustrated during math. But, he's like, but I used my calming strategies and I was fine.
That's wonderful.
Whereas before, I feel like in his mind, he was so worked up that he couldn't get to the calming.
Yeah.
He couldn't remember what he needed to do.
Yep. That's a great point that you bring up, because I know we've talked about this in the past, where there's two different ways that we can respond. There's reflexive and learn. And what Mandy was talking about there is that the reflex was interrupting the learn. And so it's a really important thing when you can see that reflexive behaviors have changed so that a child can tap into learned strategies. And so that's a really profound thing, because as we go from childhood, developmentally, we start to learn adaptive patterns. How do we handle life? How do we respond? But if we have a reflex that prevents us from using the strategies that we should implement, then it can really interfere with quality of life, especially in situations when stress arises.
Right.
So it's a great thing when you can see that he's been able to take the things that are the learned behaviors now and apply them, because the reflex is not in the way. So that's a great change to hear.
Right.
So Mandy, this has obviously been quite some time that you've been a patient, and I'm sure you remember when you sat in the report room when we had our first conversation. If you could rewind time and talk to yourself now when you were sitting there and doing the report, what would you want to say to yourself?
To allow the time. When I heard about the care plane and how long it was going to be, I was like, oh, that's a long time. Like, and then you had talked about how, sometimes they go through a slight regression for a little bit of time, and that scared me, and I was like, well, I don't want things to get worse, and, to know that you get through it, it's not horrible, it's not, by no means was he worse, he would have, some times where he seemed off, but it passes, and it's worth it in the long run, and I'm so glad that I made the investment to do it. He enjoys coming here. I don't have an issue. Once my care plan was done, I was scared because I didn't want to stop coming. Like, I wanted to keep coming. So, we still do the continued care, and it helps. It works, and I would tell anybody that.
Well, thank you so much, and we love having you and your family here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. So, and for moms and dads, if you're watching this, just know that, Mandy's a real mom who lived through the struggles that many of you are going through, and this is just one example of how so many kids can really benefit when you find strategies like pediatric chiropractic to help your child. So, Mandy, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Sure.
Appreciate your time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Growing Healthy Families podcast, the world's #1 source for health education. Make sure to go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a review. Make sure to follow us on social media at the links listed in the show notes, and let us know what area of health you are struggling with, so we can get you and your family on the road to epic health.